Welcome to the New Era Capabilities webinar, focusing on enabling a remote workforce. I'm Mike Harmon, Vice President of Sales for New Era Technology. I will be moderating this event. A few housekeeping topics before we get started. We will be recording this webinar and it will be available on our website, and a link will be sent out to all that have registered. We will have time for questions at the end of the presentation. Simply post your questions in the Q&A window in the chat area on your screen. Today, we will hear from several of our experts regarding remote workforce deployment, collaboration, unified communications and contact center, Remax Services, and then we will conclude with a customer success story. So let me introduce you to our panelists. We'll have Joe Gillis, our National Director of Business Development, Dan Marshall, National Director of Unified Communications, and Chris Turner, Services Account Manager for our Remax Services. You can see the New Era COVID-19 statement. The statement and all of the current information regarding our policies are on our website at neweratech.com. So let's get started. Joe and Dan, let's start with remote workforce.
Hi everyone, this is Joe Gillis here. Thanks again for attending. We appreciate your time as always. Some of the things that we wanted to talk about today were, considerations, not only for your organizations but for New Era as well, and a few of the different things that we like to look at as far as our customers go are just these 5 bullets here. What do we do for connectivity to our remote workforce? How do we get them set up, whether they're using software or appliances? What type of security compliance do we need for our users? These all have to be addressed when we set up our remote workforce. How do we authenticate our remote workforce, our remote users? Do we use some type of multi-factor authentication? Are we leveraging these different products such as Duo or Microsoft MFA? These are all things that New Era is experiencing and can help if needed. How do we provision and roll out endpoints for remote workers? Does everybody have a laptop? Do they work off of desktops? Do they need to get their laptop or desktop from their office? Does it need to be cleaned before it's sent to the remote worker's home? And then how do we protect that desktop once the remote worker is using it from their house? Do we have all the updated antivirus software? Are we using the correct tools? Are we making sure that they're not surfing inappropriate things of that nature? So those are the 5 things that we kind of begin to look at as we enable our remote workforce. Next. So as an organization, these are the questions that you might ask yourself. Do you support remote workers? I assume at this point everybody does, right? We're all in an unusual situation. How long are we going to be supporting them for? How do we do so? How do we expand across those capabilities? How do we do it for long-term situations that we're in right now? You have to ask yourself, how many can we support given our current infrastructure and licensing models? What do we do? What are the next steps? What type of job functions do these people have? Are they a contact center user? Are they an executive? Are they a services person? What are the different requirements of those different users and of your different job functions? Do these users need equipment? These have become a real consideration over the past 6 weeks or so as we see hardware considerations. There's been a pretty significant disruption in the supply chain. How do we address that? Those are some of the things that we look for in assessing your needs, and we can help with as a vendor, as a partner of our customers. So if anything does come up, please feel free to reach out to your New Era representative, and they'd be more than happy to discuss these options with you. I'll throw it over to you for this one if you want to take it on this.
Yeah, sounds great, Joe. Again, thanks for your time today. I know everyone's extremely busy and there's a lot of stuff going on, so we appreciate it. So from a collaboration perspective, it's a pretty good time right now to have a lot of tools available to us. And the tools available are pretty abundant at this point. So there's Microsoft Teams, Cisco Teams, a lot of chat features and functionality that allow remote workers to collaborate and work together much more effectively than they would have even like 10 years ago if they were forced to work remotely. When it comes to video conferencing, Zoom has made a lot of headlines in the news lately, and so has Cisco WebEx. There are a lot of offers available for both of those products that can help enable remote workforce collaboration. They both work extremely well. They both provide feature-rich functionality for presentation, conferencing, content sharing, and things like that. And there's a lot of good use cases for those products as well, too. They fit a wide spectrum of things, whether it's distance learning for education, connected justice for government, where you're doing parole hearings and things like that, at a distance, and then telemedicine for healthcare. So doctors and patients and other faculty in those environments are able to communicate and share and work together without actually being in contact with each other. So, and the options for video conferencing, there are a lot of soft codec versions and hard codec versions that are available that allow people with a camera on any device, whether it's a smartphone, tablet, laptop, things like that, to leverage these collaboration-based video conferencing tools. So a lot of different options are available, especially for people that may not have access to laptops and things like that. Most people nowadays do have smartphones or a tablet and things like that that do have a camera. Any of those devices are able to participate in these products. So next. So we're assessing the collaboration needs. What do you use for collaboration today? Most organizations have Office 365, or they use a Cisco platform with Jabber or WebEx Teams. Which ones do you have? Usually there's existing features that may not be leveraged yet that you can turn on. We work with a number of customers that had features that they weren't needed 2 months ago, and now suddenly there's a great need for them. So you may find that a lot of your platforms currently have features that you're not leveraging that can be turned on pretty quickly and activated and rolled out to the users with relative ease. And are you aware of some of the free offers that are available through both Zoom, Cisco WebEx, and Microsoft Teams? There's a lot of companies out there right now that are trying to offer as many services as possible because they understand the situation everyone's in. So they're offering free services, oftentimes for as long as 90 days, that you can use these products throughout your organization to help enable the remote workforce. Next. When it comes to UC and contact center, we've been working with a lot of customers now that have call centers, have people that rely heavily on the phones to run their organization. Where historically they've been hard phones, we've had to move those phones outside the organization. And the good news is that nowadays there's a lot of features and capabilities for getting hard phones to work outside the organization. Challenge being that supply chains are becoming a little bit interrupted, especially with most of the equipment being made in China. So the hard phones are becoming harder and harder to come by now, but soft clients are readily available. And so most platforms, whether it's Avaya or Cisco, have soft clients that you can quickly roll out to your end users, provision them, get them up and running, either through a VPN client or some other method to get them registered back to your corporate system. And there's cloud-based UC and contact center products out now as well that you can spin up for 90 days that include soft phone capabilities and the ability to do contact center and multi-channel features for customers that suddenly need a cloud-based contact center. So a lot of options nowadays. Next. So when you're assessing the UC and contact center needs, does the platform currently support remote users? There's no right answer to that, and oftentimes you may have to enable some features related to VPNs or activating other products to enable that remote workforce, but most systems today have some kind of capability to enable a remote workforce on their existing platform. And when it comes to contact center, do you have a multi-channel support? Can you do chat? Can you do SMS? Can you do email? Can you provide as many mechanisms to reach your customers and support them in a remote capacity, given what you've got? So those are the questions we use to typically address the contact center needs. Next. And Chris, I'm going to pass this over to you.
Thank you, Dan. I do appreciate that. As everyone else has said, thank you all for joining us today. So our Remax Services new era of technology. This is where we can take everything that we've discussed previously, especially in terms of UC communication, in regards to Teams, Zoom, WebEx. Now that that's been deployed within your environment, what happens next? Well, the IT teams that we deal with, your IT team, they're dealing with bandwidth issues, with network issues, with infrastructure. They might not be able to handle the day-to-day on how to support these cloud applications for video. This is where our VNOC comes in. We offer 24/7 video availability. We can assist with the rollout of your video conference solution. Let's say that you've gone to a Zoom or WebEx platform and you need to roll out that platform to 200, 300, thousands of users. We can help with that to make sure that everyone gets connected, everyone gets trained, and everyone knows how to use that application. That is done through our back-end and front-end endpoint management. We'll have access to your account as long as you give that to us. We can add people, we can remove users, we can just make sure that you're taken care of. We can also provide a virtual attendance service. What is that? It's like the old telephone operator model where we can schedule a call. We can launch the call as well. We'll make sure that everyone is connected. They can see, they can hear. If they're sharing a presentation, we'll make sure that they can do that. If there's a bridge line that needs to get added in, we'll assist with that as well. And then we'll exit the call and be on hand for any troubleshooting or remediation. Because the last thing that the IT teams need to deal with are these calls. They want someone else to help with it to make sure that the end users are taken care of so their meetings continue without any issues. Let's say that you do have some of these deployed or you don't know which application that you want, but you do have a need for an on-demand video conference call. Because as we know, in the remote workforce nowadays, meetings still need to happen. We can help there too. We have access to all of these applications. We can do an on-demand a la carte video call for you, connect your endpoints through our system to make sure that that meeting happens without a hitch. It's available with all UC video platforms, WebEx, Zoom, Teams. We can do that for you. Another aspect of our video network operations center service is our remote monitoring service. Right now, while people are not in the building, except for essential personnel like IT teams, you still need to know that the equipment can work. Because one day we'll all be back on site and we'll want to turn on the lights and we'll want to make sure that everything is working. This is where we can help as well. We can monitor your devices, make sure that they're up, alert you when they're down, perform diagnostics, and then also have remote access for system troubleshooting. That way, when everything does come back online, we are ready to move forward. One thing that I did want to discuss just briefly was in terms of video conferencing deployment. We have one customer within New Era where we provide on-site services. That would be on-site staffing services for video. Once they went remote, they deployed Zoom to their thousands of users. Their IT team needed assistance handling that, so we moved from that on-demand staffing service to an on-demand remote service. So that's where we've seen a lot of success. They look to us to do that, and we're doing that daily for them now. Next slide, please. So some of the questions that we ask when we're assessing the needs. What are your current video conference tools? Does your organization have them? Is it Cisco? Is it Poly? Is it Lifesize? Is it Zoom or is it WebEx? It can be any of those tools. Who supports the backend video conference infrastructure? Is there an internal IT team? What are their hours of support? Where can we assist with that? And what level of support would be needed to make your daily operations more effective? Do you need an 8x5 service? Do you need a 24/7 service with a 15-minute response time? Do you want us managing everything? That's where we can fit in, and those are the questions that we normally ask. Next slide.
One of our customers had pretty interesting situation with Odyssey. Isn't unique right now at all. They're a leading waste management provider across the United States. They're a very geographically diverse organization. They have about 110 remote locations, and was in need of not only just enabling remote access to applications for users, but obviously also setting up contact center agents. So what we ended up doing for them on pretty much a 1-week notice was sending out about between 400 and 500 Meraki appliances with PoE capabilities, so they could plug in their Avaya phones as their contact center users needed, and they were up and running within days. It was an extraordinarily simple rollout, given that the Meraki product is very easy to manage and easily provisioned remotely. And given that they were able to use their hard phones from their home, they were able to pretty much work as if nothing had ever happened. This is a pretty well-known waste management provider. If you were to drive down the street and see a porta potty, if you will, you would recognize their name. So it was a pretty good story. We had a very quick turnaround and a pretty nice solution at the end of the day.
Thank you, gentlemen. That went rather quick. So we do have a few questions, and a reminder, if you have any questions, please send them to the Q&A section in your screen. One question we have is, what typical requirements are required from customers and the struggles that they may see when deploying a remote workforce? Joe or Dan?
Hey, Mike, this is Dan. Yeah, I can field that. So a few of the common issues are going to be internet connectivity. It sounds kind of crazy, but there are some areas of the country where the bandwidth speeds vary. So we're dealing with some customers that have very slow internet speeds, and when they try to use the collaboration software and things like that, they find that they have to upgrade the speeds in order to get the experience that they're looking for. That's a pretty common one as well. The next one is licensing. Many customers only had a few remote workers previously, and whatever manufacturer they're using, maybe they're only licensed for a fraction of their workforce, and so they needed to amp those up. So the good news is that most of the partners that New Era works with, they're all offering 90 connections for an almost unlimited number of VPN connections. So those are two of the most common ones, Mike.
Okay, well, one of that I'm experiencing right now is a dog barking in my house, but other than that, that's not a technical issue. Another question that came up, you talked about some free solutions. Can you provide more details on those and how someone may take advantage of those?
Sure, yeah. So one that I've been personally working with a lot over the past couple of weeks is WebEx Meeting Center for Enterprise. It was so popular, in fact, that Cisco had to throttle it a little bit, where we had to submit approved requests at this point. But Cisco is still readily offering free 90-day trials of the WebEx solution. Zoom has a comparable one as well. Chris can speak more articulate about that. But with WebEx in particular, New Era can submit a WebEx Meeting Center request for the customer with the requested number of end user licenses that they want. And usually within about 4 hours, we can turn up the solution and have up to 500 or 1,000 users within the organization with their own WebEx Meeting Center account as well as Cisco Teams. So pretty easy to do that.
Joe here, Avaya has a nice offer as well, where they'll do their kind of competitive product to that, where they'll give spaces to nonprofits and government entities. I believe for 90 days, they're also setting up free licensing for soft clients for users. So that's another nice offer from some of our manufacturer friends.
And from a Zoom end, we can set you up with some free licenses as well to give you access to the pro services that Zoom offers rather than just the general free license. Zoom does have free licenses ready available, but there are limitations to what you can do with that license, to everything from the length of the meeting to recording abilities, things like that. So if you're looking to do a longer trial to have the full feature set, we can work with you to get that set up on a trial-free basis.
There's a follow-up question to that discussion. What is the commitments after a 90-day trial expires?
There is no commitment, at least I know from Zoom. We can just cancel that trial, no problem.
Yeah, same for Avaya and Cisco. So both of those offers, there are no strings attached. So if you like the services, want to continue to use them, obviously they'll be thrilled to send you an agreement. But once the 90 days are up, if you don't want to use them anymore, they just go away.
There's another question. Are VNOC or NOC services available for services other than just video, such as data or voice?
Yes, 100%. So we have NOC services for data and voice. Most of our VNOC services come out of our Pennsylvania office, but we do have two other NOCs, one in Australia, one out of their Boston/Quincy office that focus specifically on data and voice. So that's absolutely something we could do.
All right. One more question. How do you manage security of networks and information as people deploy a remote workforce?
Oof, that's a good question. So a lot of it has to do with data loss prevention, and endpoint protection are most commonly used for that. So whether you're using something like Umbrella or AMP from Cisco or Carbon Black, or there's a number of different endpoints out there in the market. A number of them can support data loss prevention, and a lot of that will be built into the firewall capabilities as well. So as you're transmitting data from the machine over the wire, you can make sure it's encrypted, and both the firewall and the endpoint can typically look for credit cards, social security numbers, and things like that, and prevent them from being transmitted over the wire. The one thing that's very difficult to handle right now is anything to do with HIPAA, which is why they kind of postponed the HIPAA requirements for the duration of the COVID-19 pandemic, just because it's very difficult to track any of that kind of stuff as well.
All right. There's a question, and see if Chris might be able to answer this, regarding the announcement yesterday of purchase of Blue Jeans by Verizon. And does New Era represent Blue Jeans?
We do represent Blue Jeans. We are a reseller and partner with Blue Jeans and continue to be. As we continue to receive information and that sale and that purchase continues to expand and we get more information on that, we'll be able to move forward on how we're going to move forward with Blue Jeans in the future. But as it stands right now, they are a partner of ours, and we do have the ability to license, sell, and demo Blue Jeans.
Yeah. 1 second here. One more question came in. So you mentioned the locations of your NOC and VNOC operation centers. Does this limit where in the country you can provide those services?
No, we can provide it wherever you need to. At least from the VNOC side, and Dan and Joe can speak about the network and phone. From the VNOC video side of things, we do it on a global level. For one of our customers, we're providing support for over 800 endpoints throughout the globe. So anywhere from Asia Pac, EMEA, and all across the United States, North America, and South America.
Yeah, and from the data side, the customer success story that we mentioned earlier, they've got 115 sites throughout the U.S. So, I mean, there are gaps where we may have to use some subcontractors to provide smart hands, but we fully support the U.S. and the international as well. So, yes, it does not limit where we service our customers.
All right. I think that is all the questions we have had so far. Anything else from the panelists before we end the call? All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for attending. I hope you found it informative. If you would like more information on the topics covered here today, we can be contacted at solutions@neweratech.com. As I mentioned previously, this presentation was also recorded and can also be found on our website at neweratech.com. Stay safe and healthy, and have a great weekend. Take care.